My name is Jake. I'm 28 years old and I live in Portland, Oregon. This happened to me last November. My parents had gone on a vacation to Florida for a week, so I was house-sitting for them in their suburban home. That night I was exhausted. I'd gotten home from work, taken a shower, and settled down on the couch to watch some Netflix. It was close to midnight when suddenly the doorbell rang. When your doorbell rings at midnight, you first think it's just a mistake, right? That's what I thought. I called out through the intercom, "Who's there?" No answer, but the doorbell rang again. This time, whoever it was held it down longer. A solid 10 seconds of that ringing echoing through the empty house. I got up and looked through the peephole. There was nobody there, at least nobody I could see in my limited view of the porch. I didn't open the door, obviously, but I was disturbed. I went back to the living room, turned off the TV, and sat in silence. Maybe 10 minutes had passed when I heard a noise from the direction of the second-floor balcony. My parents' house is a 2-story. I quietly approached the window that faces the balcony. I carefully parted the curtains. On the roof of the garage across the street, someone was standing there, watching me. I couldn't see them clearly in the dark, but I could make out their silhouette. A tall figure, definitely a man, and he was completely still, just staring. I immediately closed the curtain and stepped back. My heart was pounding. I grabbed my phone and pulled up the emergency call screen just to have it ready. After about 5 minutes, I approached the curtain again. This time nobody was there. But the worst part wasn't that night. The next morning when I went outside to get the mail, I found a red ribbon tied to the front door handle, a perfect bow. I didn't tie it there, and neither did my parents. I called them immediately. But here's what really freaks me out. I looked up what a red ribbon on a door means. Some people say it's a marker, a signal to others that someone's been inside, or that someone's been chosen. I still don't know which one it was, and I'm not sure I want to know. My name is Sarah. I'm 32 years old. I live in a standalone house in Minneapolis, Minnesota. This happened 2 years ago in the middle of winter. At the time, my husband was on a business trip overseas for a week. I was completely alone in the house. Our house has a basement that we use for storage. Old furniture, winter blankets, that kind of stuff. The night it happened, I'd eaten dinner and was upstairs in my bedroom reading a book. It must have been around 11 p.m. I was just about to fall asleep when I heard a sound from downstairs, like someone had dropped something, a dull thud. At first, I thought it was our cat, but then I remembered we'd left our cat with my mom for the week. There were no other living creatures in the house. I got up and walked to the top of the stairs. A faint light was coming from downstairs. The basement light was on. I didn't turn that light on. "Is anyone down there?" I called out. No answer. But just as I was about to go down the stairs, I heard footsteps coming from the basement. Slow and heavy. Each step creaked like old wood under weight. Someone, or something, was walking up towards me. I panicked. I immediately ran back to my bedroom, locked the door, and called 911. While I was on the phone with the operator, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Methodical, deliberate, walking back and forth outside my door. The police arrived within 15 minutes, but they couldn't find anyone in the house. They searched everywhere. They checked the basement too. Nothing was broken. Windows were secure. Doors were locked. But they did find something. On the basement floor, there were fresh footprints, muddy tracks, but here's what made my blood run cold. The officer said the prints didn't look quite right. The spacing was off, too far apart for a normal person. And these tracks just suddenly stopped in the middle of the basement, like whoever, or whatever it was, had just vanished into thin air. I didn't stay in that house until my husband came back. I stayed at my friend's place. I still don't know what caused those footsteps, and I don't think I want to know. My name is Mike. I'm 25 years old. I live in Austin, Texas. This story happened when I was a senior in high school. My family had gone to visit relatives in Dallas for the weekend. I'd stayed home because I had to study for exams. It was Saturday night and I was studying. It was around 11 p.m. The landline phone rang. Normally nobody really called that phone. Most people knew my cell number. I answered. "Hello?" A voice came through. It was a woman's voice. She was crying. "Help me, please," she said. "Who is this? Did you dial the wrong number?" I asked. "They're in the house, inside. Please help me." The line went dead. My heart was about to burst out of my chest. I immediately tried calling the number back. The phone was ringing, but nobody was picking up. 5 minutes later, the phone rang again. This time it was a man's voice. He was speaking very calmly. "Hello, Mike. How are you doing?" I froze. "Who is this? How do you know my name?" "I've been watching you for a long time. I know you study every night at 11 p.m. You're very hard-working." I hung up the phone and unplugged it from the wall. My hands were shaking. I called the police, but they couldn't trace the number. They said it was an unregistered line. The next day, when the police came, they found something in the backyard. A chair was positioned next to the telephone pole, like someone had been using it to watch us, and on top of the chair was a photograph of me, taken while I was studying. I didn't sleep at all that weekend. My name is Emily. I'm 30 years old and I live in an apartment complex in San Diego, California. I'd just moved into this apartment last year. It was September. My family had gone to a wedding in Phoenix, but I couldn't get time off work, so I couldn't go. Saturday night I was home alone. While I was taking a shower in the bathroom, I noticed something strange. I was looking in the mirror, but for a moment, I swear I saw an eye, just for a split second. An eye that wasn't mine, staring back at me through the reflection. When I turned around, of course, nobody was there. "You're just tired," I told myself. But my hands were shaking. That feeling didn't go away. That night, as I was lying in bed, I kept staring at my bedroom mirror. It was a large, full-length mirror on the closet door. It reflected half the room, and I couldn't shake this feeling that someone was watching me through it. As I was trying to fall asleep, I saw it again. Movement in the mirror, a shadow passing behind me. I immediately got up and turned on the lights. Nobody was there. I checked the closet, under the bed, everywhere. Nothing. Maybe I was hallucinating, I thought, but I unplugged my phone charger and kept it next to me, just in case I needed to call someone. The next morning when I woke up, I opened the closet to get dressed. Inside were my regular clothes. But I noticed something strange about the back wall of the closet. The wall looked a little different. I tapped it and it sounded hollow. Out of curiosity, I pushed it with my hand and the wall moved. There was a hidden compartment, and in that narrow space there was a small hole, maybe the size of a quarter, showing directly into my next-door neighbor's bedroom. I could see their bed, their dresser, everything. My stomach dropped. But here's what made it worse. I had to work that Sunday. I couldn't leave until Monday morning. I had to spend one more night in that apartment, knowing that hole was there, knowing someone might have been watching me. I pushed a heavy dresser in front of the closet door and barely slept that night. Every sound made me jump, every shadow looked like a person. Monday morning I called the landlord and explained everything. When maintenance came to seal it up, they found something else. Scratches around the hole. Fresh scratches, like someone had been trying to widen it recently. I moved out that week. Now I think about it. Who knows how many nights someone was watching me through that hole? And who was it? A previous tenant? The landlord? My neighbor? I'll never know. And that's what scares me the most. The last story is the most disturbing one. I won't give the name of the person who sent this. They didn't want me to. This person lives in Seattle, Washington. They're 35 years old. 3 months ago, they'd moved into a new apartment. Top floor, right under the roof. The first week, everything was normal. But in the second week, sounds started coming from the ceiling at night. Tapping sounds like someone was walking up there. But above them was just the attic space. Nobody could be living there. One night, they gathered the courage to call building management. The staff member said, "Nobody goes in the attic, maybe it's cats." But these sounded like footsteps. Human footsteps. The third week, the sounds got worse. Now, they weren't just at night, they were happening during the day too. And one day, they noticed the attic access panel was slightly ajar. That small metal hatch that leads to the crawl space. They know they didn't open it. They got a ladder, opened the hatch and looked in with a flashlight. The attic was dark. It seemed empty. But there was a smell, a bad smell, like someone had been living there. Just as they were about to close the hatch, they saw something in the corner of the attic space. A mattress, a sleeping bag, empty water bottles, and food wrappers. Someone had been living up there. They called the police immediately. When they arrived, they searched the attic space. That mattress and those items were really there. But nobody was there. They took DNA samples and told them they'd investigate. 2 days later, the police came back. They'd identified who the DNA belonged to, but they wouldn't tell them who it was. Just that the person had been located and dealt with. They wouldn't answer any more questions. But here's what keeps them up at night. Before the police took everything away, they saw something else in that attic. Photos. Dozens of photos scattered around that mattress. Photos of different apartments, different people, different windows, all taken from above, from attic spaces. The police wouldn't tell them how many other buildings this person had done this in. They wouldn't say if they'd caught them, or if they'd just disappeared again. Now that person has moved to a different building. But sometimes at night, they still hear sounds above them. Different building, different attic. And they wonder, is it happening again? Or did it never stop?